like we're live here. We're on a new episode of Eat
Yes.
This, Drink That. We made it by the buzzer. We did not know if our friend Ali was going to make it in time. He's at an airport in Atlanta. And we're excited to see what's doing. What's cool about this, though, and technology is we're going to hopefully have some shows in the future with Ali near the barbecue or Ali at a food truck or whatever. But regardless,
An
we are
Amtrak
on
station.
Amtrak station, yeah, wherever.
Bus
So we
station.
are on
I'm
episode
just
5.
transport.
The bus system in Austin is going to be tested. So episode 5, we got, this is our season of bourbon. I believe this is our 50th or 51st episode. So congrats on that. We've made it to 50 episodes of the podcast. If you haven't seen it yet, we're on YouTube. Look up Eat This, Drink That. And without further ado, let's get right into what Steve's doing today for his
Fantastic
episode.
Welcome, guys. Yeah, this is actually the first season on Fireside, but we've already done 3 other seasons that were through a different platform. But like Ryan said, this is all about bourbon. We've already covered in episode 1, we did the laws of bourbon. We got feedback, a lot of feedback.
It's Ali. It's at the airport.
Yeah. Then we've covered proof and how, all the production. Today we're going to talk about the business of bourbon because it's not like if you're living in Orange County or San Diego and you want to go have a Ballast Point beer, you go to the brewery and you drink something they made right there. Just like tequila production, bourbon is a contract distillation network. It's a little bit different now because of the success of bourbon. So I'm going to give you some numbers. There's 11.4 million bourbon barrels aging right now in Kentucky. There's only 4.5 million people in Kentucky. So that's roughly 2.5 times, 2.4 or something.
That is crazy.
Yeah, which is nuts. The bourbon producers all say you would have more if they didn't get taxed. They get taxed on how many barrels they have aging at any one time. I'm not sure how much that is true. But we had, early 2000s, we only had 10 distilleries. We had Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, Four Roses, Woodford, the Lambert and Graham Woodford, Heaven Hill, Barton, Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, Brown Foreman, which makes a lot of bourbons, and Bernheim. That was it.
Wow.
And I know someone, if they watch this episode, they might say there was so-and-so small distillery. Those were the 10 ultra traditional brands. Then bourbon took off, skyrocketed. Late 2000s, early 2010s. Now there's 42. There's roughly 170 to 180 different brands. The way it used to be, and we talked about this a little bit with Black Maple Hill. So you could go to Kentucky. You said, I want to create a bourbon brand. Someone created Black Maple Hill, and they would just go and scout out barrels from other places. They were a bottler. That was technically probably Heaven Hill, but it came through KBD, Kentucky Bourbon Distillers. And a long time ago, that's where Sazerac 18 came from. Rumor was that's where the original Pappy's came from. That's where Black Maple Hill was sourced from. The Sazerac 18 was apparently like this rare, ultra rare, and very unicorn bourbon, and that came from KBB. But now everybody is selling a ton of bourbon. So what it comes down to now is transparency. And the reason why I love Four Roses and talk about Four Roses so much is they are the most transparent distillery, period. They tell you 1 of 5 yeast strains they use. They tell you there are 2 mash bills. And if you remember, mash bills are the recipes. They have a very high rye, like 35%, and they have another high rye, I think is 20. They're 5 yeast. They have 10 flavor streams that come out of that. And they tell you everything with a little code. And I know, so back when I was a part of buying bourbon barrels for a retailer, I know exactly which one I fell in love with. It was OBSV. It was a 10-year, 8-month aged bourbon. That's their high rye recipe, so 35% rye. I mean, by far, it's my favorite bourbon ever. It was amazing. Wow. So that transparency is really important if you want to know where it comes from. Let's take Woodford Reserve. So Woodford is made at Lambert and Graham. That's that very small. It's the smallest distillery. It's also very unique because it's 3 pot stills, no column stills, if you remember from our production episode. But is all of that bourbon that's made at Lambert and Graham inside the Woodford Reserve? No. They blend it with bourbon from Old Foe up in Louisville. So Old Foe bourbon goes into Woodford. I don't know how much, they keep it all a big secret. Buffalo Trace is also a big secret. They don't really tell you the mash bill recipes, and they produce a lot of different brands out of there. They're all very good. This does not mean transparency equals high quality. But what it does mean is we want transparency to know there's another distillery in Indiana right across from Louisville called MGP. It used to be the old Seagrams, and they supply a bunch of people's rye. Angel's Envy, Diageo buys a ton of stuff from them. Bullet used to come from there. Who else? Ambler. I wrote these down because there's a lot. Templeton. There was an actual, so Templeton said that they were an Iowa rye. There was a lawsuit against them that I think was won because of kind of fleecing the consumer. All of it came from MGP in Indiana. It didn't come from Iowa. When Whistle Pig, which we talked about last week when Ali made his old fashioned, Whistle Pig.
Had a few of those last night.
Yeah, nice. That guy was very open and honest that originally because he wanted to plant rye in Vermont, make rye whiskey in Vermont, he was buying Canadian rye and he was blending it. But he was very open and honest about it in the beginning. So it doesn't mean that Woodford Reserve isn't a good bourbon. It doesn't mean that people that are buying from distilleries like MGP isn't good whiskey. And it doesn't mean that, when you're finding ultra rare barrels and then you bottle them under your Black Maple Hill label, it doesn't mean it's not good. That Black Maple Hill was very, very good. All of that bourbon is gone now. Old rare bourbons are gone. Unless it's coming from the distillery who produces the label itself, like Pappy, and they're using their 15-year-old bourbon that's coming from their distillery. So now we should expect transparency. We know that Old Forester is made at Old Forester in Louisville, and we know Four Roses is made at the distillery. Four Roses actually, I think, used to supply the whiskey for Bullet too. And then there's tons of small little distilleries all around the country who make bourbon, but they're actually buying from other people because they've only been open a year.
If it's from Bourbon County, right? I mean, that's...
No. Remember the laws? It can be anywhere in the U.S. Bourbon is just 51% corn, 100% new charred oak barrels, can be produced anywhere. Yeah, that's a common misconception. People think that it has to be from Kentucky, but Kentucky never protected that. They should have a long time ago.
Yeah, you know what? We have talked about this a couple times, so sorry I spaced
out
for a second. Yeah.
No.
We got to keep going over stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's very complicated. And this right now is the reason, because the business of bourbon doesn't push transparency. So you know who distilled it, blah, blah, blah. Bottled and bond that Ali is a big fan of, that does, because it's a single distillery, a single year in a bonded warehouse, aged 4 years, and it's 100 proof. So you know everything. But not every bourbon is bottled in bond.
Yeah, I
Go
feel
ahead.
like I read a news story, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 years ago, where they kind of explained this. They explained that, hey, you can kind of go buy bourbon from, if you have enough capital, you can go buy bourbon and sort of
Yeah.
make your own little yeah, brand. And I thought that was fascinating that quite a few brands all come from the same place.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like
And you wouldn't know it.
the wine industry has a little bit of that too, right? Up in Napa and Sonoma, where
Oh, yeah.
there's the grapes are being shared from different places, and yeah, it's really interesting. It's just once you dig deeper into this stuff, because most people just buy a bottle of whatever and they don't think that much about it. So it's really cool to learn this stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
Let me ask you this.
yeah.
I was going to ask this. Why isn't there more transparency in the
Well, and Ryan brings up a really good point with wine. Tequila is always built on contract distillation. Think about all of the celebrity tequilas out there. Everybody from the cast of Jumanji now has a tequila. Chris Rock, Jack Black,
The
uh,
Rock.
yeah, The Rock. Um, think about all the celebrity tequilas. It started with Cabo Wabo. I can't even remember
Sammy
the
Hagar.
Sammy Hagar.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody knows George Clooney. You bring up the point about wine, so you can go up and buy barrels from people. You can't tell anybody who it came from, but you can put it in your label, and you just bought wine from somebody else. You can buy grapes from
Oh.
someone else's vineyard. It's just the way the business of this industry works. But I think we should expect a lot more from bourbon and tequila specifically. That we want to know where it came from, who made it, how it was made, what's inside the bottle. And you can do that just by learning a little bit more about the industry. I mean, I have so much notes on this one sheet of paper, so I wouldn't forget. Yeah, I mean,
Nice,
it's been
man.
crazy. I think I've covered everything. KBD used to do the Willet stuff too, but now Willet has its own distillery. There's people who started off over here buying barrels and then selling it under their label who now have distilleries. I think Bullet has their own distillery now. Angel's Envy, I'm pretty sure. I haven't been to Kentucky in a long time. They have their own distillery. Willet's got their own distillery. That's why we're up to 42 distilleries. But we're still looking at 170, 180 different brands, which is way different than tequila, which is 150 distilleries, and they make 1,500 different labels. So,
Jeez.
yeah, when you're down in San Diego and you see a tequila in a shotgun bottle or a skull bottle, or
Oh, I
those are
see.
all coming from a different distillery.
Right, right.
But then the cast of Jumanji all went and bought barrels of tequila from somewhere and created their own label. We just decided this week, we don't know the full parameters, but episode or season 3 of Fireside, which would actually be our 6th season total, we're going to cover agave spirits, and we'll really dive into this even more. But
Yes.
that's really the business of bourbon. So it's Four Roses, I really think makes a very, very good bourbon, but I support them even more because of their transparency. Old Forester, I mean, this has been around since the late 1800s. I think they even survived Prohibition, probably, who knows, making medicine, which was bourbon. We know the transparency of this. That is the main reason. Maker's Mark. I mean, they created this distillery from the ground up. We know they're a wheated bourbon. We know what they have transparency too. It's a very light bourbon. I really like rye. I like the spice. I like the full throttleness of high rye whiskey. We're going to even talk about this in the last episode of this season when you guys are doing blind tastings of 4 different bourbons in different styles. And we're all going to find out what everybody likes. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just you will find out exactly what you like. So
Right.
I'm excited really about making this cocktail.
Do I see Martinelli's, Steve?
Yeah. So
I see Martinelli's.
Ignore that this says lime because it's actually lemon. And I think this is an old
classic.
Yeah, I think
he doesn't
this is
even
old.
throw away his stickers. It's tape, Steve. It's just tape.
I feel like this was on an old episode too, where it was mislabeled.
Yeah.
You had to take his word for it.
Come on.
So
unbelievable.
We're gonna make a whiskey sour, but I told you I wanted to do something autumny, something football, something you're gonna sit around and you have tacos or barbecue or pizza or whatever. You're watching football. You want to have some nice bourbon cocktails. When you guys think of autumn or the holidays or whatever, I think of spices. So cinnamon, baking spices, ginger. So I wanted to use ginger. Yeah, I wanted to use apple cider, but the complete train wreck of supply chain has taken away our apple, not cider. Because it's unpasteurized apple juice. It's, when apples are ripe. I tried to find it in 2 different markets and they're like, oh yeah, we can't get any. I'm like, hey, what? So I'm just using apple juice, but this is really good apple juice. Yeah. This is a really simple recipe. So whiskey sour, remember.
Whiskey sour, all right, that's the drink.
Let's remember, it is spirit, sugar, and citrus, just like a daiquiri, just like a margarita. You're changing out the spirit. So daiquiri is rum with simple syrup and lime. Margarita is tequila, simple syrup and lime. Whiskey sour is just bourbon, lemon, and simple syrup. But I wanted apple juice. So we're going to trade out some of that lemon juice for apple juice. Actually, we're going to up this a little bit. I've been playing with different ratios all week. So I've had a lot of cocktails this week. And then I made a ginger lemon simple syrup. So I also didn't want to overwhelm it. So I didn't grate the ginger. I just peeled it and julienned the ginger. I didn't put lemon juice in here. I just put lemon zest and lemon peel. But I let it boil for a while. So there's a lot of flavor in this. And then I just checked it out. It's a 1-to-1. So 1-to-1 sugar and water. And then we're going to use a little less lemon, like I said. So it's 2 ounces of bourbon. It is 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. It is 1 ounce of apple juice. And then it's 3/4 ounces of the ginger lemon simple syrup. I wanted that spice from the ginger to come through. So let's get our cube for our glass. I'm going to serve this in an old-fashioned glass with...
look at that ice. Look at the ice.
With ice.
Look at the ice, everybody.
The Iceman. I can't believe let's just talk about how Ali pulled off joining our podcast today from the airport in Atlanta.
I know. It's pretty awesome.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Is he in a tie? Are you wearing a tie?
No, it's sunglasses.
That was a weird illusion. I'm like, Ali's throwing down on a tie.
I just have to say, out the gate,
go ahead,
whiskey
Ali.
sour is, I was just going to say at the gate, whiskey sour is probably one of those first drinks I ever had. Like, probably got it at like a bar in Vegas, at the casino in Vegas. Like, it's like a very, to be honest, like, I think a lot of people may have had the opportunity to have like one of those Jack Daniels pre-made cocktails in high school. Do you know what I'm saying? I would never even consider ordering a whiskey sour. And this is already like, balls to the wall. It's bananas. So this is pretty cool to completely rethink a drink that honestly I would be like, yo, that cocktail's trash, straight up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whiskey sour is a trash cocktail.
It's
but
totally
this guy's
a Vegas drink, right? That's what I said to Steve right before we jumped on. I was like, I had those in Vegas. Like,
yeah, I know. I've been, last time I had one, I was chasing Bud bottles. Just so you know, that's the last.
So we've done, and so this is funny because when you think about this, whiskey sour just sounds like one of those old 70s drink. Why would you ever have that? You guys also had that same reaction when we talked about the sling or highballs.
Tom Collins.
Tom Collins.
Yeah.
And then Ali had that reaction during our daiquiri episode. He's like, "What? I'm not going to drink a daiquiri." Now he makes daiquiris all the time. It's the same thing. It's a sour drink. Spirit changes. You can change the sugar. Like for a margarita, I use agave syrup instead of simple syrup. Okay, so I got 2 ounces of bourbon.
2 ounces of bourbon.
I got an ounce of apple juice in here. I'm going to squirt in half ounce.
I had no idea apple juice was going to be in this at all.
I love apples. And in the fall, I just immediately think of anything apples. So a half ounce of the lemon juice. Then we're going to go 3/4 ounce of our simple syrup that has lemon and ginger. Okay. And I put a lot of ginger in there. I took one whole thing of ginger and cut it up. So I wanted a lot of ginger punch in there. Now, do you guys remember how we make this when you're doing a sour? Do you shake or do you stir? It has citrus.
Citrus. Oh, there's a rule for citrus. I feel like Ali might have the answer.
Stir. It's stir.
Shake.
It's shake.
Shake it in the glass.
It's shake.
All right, I failed. I thought we were making this in the glass. I'm completely baffled. Yeah.
And if you remember last week, Ali threw down on a old fashioned. I tend to make my old fashions in a tin and stir it. He built it right in the glass, and it was great.
I think it's worth it. No, because when you do that, you don't have to worry about too much dilution. There's a lot less dilution. There's more dilution with the tin over there. So that's the truth. That's
shards of ice.
Completely accurate. Yeah, I know. There's ice shards.
Yes.
It's like a slushy. Yeah, he just made us a slushy.
There's no ice shards in this. There's
no ice shards in that.
No ice shards.
Because you used something that fell off of the Arctic shelf.
So Steve, you added a twist of lime.
Lemon.
A twist of lemon, sorry, at the end.
Yep. I just did lemon because, that's what the drink is kind of based on.
Will you hold the drink up to the B cam for us? It's that one, and then do the other cam. Ooh, there we go.
Look at that. This drink is so
cloudy.
Good. I had 2 of them last night. Yeah, from the shaking.
From the shaking, okay.
Yeah, from the shaking. It's really balanced. So you get the spice of the high rye, because this is a high rye. You also get the bourbon coming straight through because it's 100 proof, and we use 2 ounces. You get the lemon, the brightness of the lemon coming through. You get that beautiful apple. This just feels like autumn. This cocktail. So 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of apple juice, half ounce of lemon, 3/4 ounce of the simple syrup. I went a little more on the simple syrup because it really balanced everything out way better. And that's it. Let's call it a apple whiskey or whiskey apple cider. Whiskey apple cider. In no way did I create this cocktail. There were certain things I wanted in this flavor components I wanted in this cocktail. That's why I came up with the ginger and the apple.
Steve, I feel like is there a Crown Royal whiskey that is sort of apple flavored, or I feel like I've seen that stuff before.
I think there's multiple.
Here it comes.
I think there's multiple. Yes, Crown Royal makes an apple. Add your own apples. There's no reason to. Whatever. It's bourbon. It's whiskey. Whoops. We don't need apple whiskey. It's
now Crown Royal. That's Canadian whiskey, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and it's got apples in it.
Bourbon.
Yeah.
I think the world now knows your absolute disdain for flavored whiskeys and apparently Crown Royal. I want to add just a couple comments. I have smell-o-vision right now because there is, I don't know if you can see it, there's an Aunt Anne's It's like the flavored pretzel
Yes.
place. So there's a lot of cinnamon in the air.
Pretzel.
So I'm smelling that cinnamon and seeing that drink. I'm thinking, could you incorporate cinnamon in there? I don't know. But I'll say this. Two things I'm definitely walking away from, on top of just, I'm going to make this drink on IG Live for sure very soon. But you went baller on the simple syrup, which is super cool. I think the opportunity of making your own simple syrup means you can add signature flavors to it. A. B. It is about that old foe, that Old Forester 100 proof, because you need a stronger proof to cut through the sweet that you're adding. It makes so much sense now. One thing I've learned this season is use 100 proof for for drinks that are going to employ some sweetness. Because I would buy these 100 proofs and I'm like, oh, this is overwhelming. But it's dope in a cocktail. It's actually a cocktail move, and Old Foresters is a just a banging deal. Brown Foreman, and that's Brown Foreman too.
Yeah, it's Brown Foreman. And I'm pretty sure half the juice in Woodford Reserve is from Old Foe. Again, we don't know because they're not going to tell us. They're not transparent about it. But, things leak out. Industry people talk. We do know it comes from, some of the juice comes from the Louisville distillery. And Ali, you make a great point. Never, ever, ever buy store-bought simple syrup. You take a saucepan, you put in 1-to-1 water, good water, not tap water, good water and sugar, and then you cook it. And just until it's dissolved and you stir it, then you can add all kinds of ingredients. I added lemon peel and ginger to this, and then let it cook. You can add jalapenos for a jalapeno simple syrup for a margarita. You can add any flavor that you want. Rosemary. You just got to play around with the amount of the ingredient, how long you steep it and boil it, and then constantly taste it so you don't overwhelm the simple syrup. Then you have to play around with the control in the actual drink. That's why I upped it to 3/4 ounce. You guys know I like a little less sugar in my cocktails. Yeah. But the ginger and the lemon, the ginger comes through at 3/4 in that drink. Just was better.
Yeah, I feel like simple syrup has always been the secret hack that, my bartender friends or anyone sort of in the know, they would sort of be like, they'd maybe brush it off like it was no big deal. Like, oh yeah, I made my own simple syrup. And, that's a really cool way to elevate, like we're always trying to do, elevate the experience instead of just pouring a Coke in there or whatever, Red Bull.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. You can really geek out on simple syrup too. Huh?
What, Ali?
I mean, just you really just hit him with the left hook and the right hook. Like, hey, Steve, I was making a drink the other day. I just like to top it off with not a splash of club soda. Oh, that's right, Red Bull. Or no, it was Monster. Just a splash of Monster. Or no, it was Mountain Dew Code Red. Just like the grossest sodas, just the most vile things that came out in the 21st century. Steve's going to be like,
Mountain Dew Code Red.
Code Red.
Yeah, Code Red.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this same drink, but top it off with a splash of Mountain Dew Code Red.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a margarita with a little Baja Blast on the rim.
I don't even know what that is. I don't even know that. So
that's Mountain Dew. That's a Mountain Dew flavor. Only at Taco Bell. Only at Taco Bell.
There's a whole nother conversation that you can go down the rabbit hole with simple syrup because people geek out about the sugars they use. They're not just using a refined sugar. I think I just used, I always have granulated sugar.
You just drove me insane with that last statement. Geeking out with the sugar. You'll be lucky if I get water from the fridge. Baby steps, Steve, just for all of us.
Water from the fridge.
Yeah. I'm not going to get it from a unicorn or wherever you get your water from. Or that scroll where you keep all your...
Ali, how long is your layover right now?
Dude, it's kind of dope. I mean, my plane takes off in an hour. I have no idea how the sound effects are, but I'm just kind of cutting off my mic when it's not my turn.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm hanging. It's all good.
Yeah. So what are you thinking? Auntie M's pretzel and then a whiskey sour over at the Chili's, or what's going on
Oh,
here?
yeah, I did pass by a TGI Fridays. Dude, okay, so
TJ
restaurants I've
Fridays.
passed, Bojangles, which I've eaten at the Atlanta airport. I was like one and done. I'll never eat Bojangles again. Um, yeah, I did pass the TGI Fridays. This is a good opportunity to just to remind you guys that what you do know about what I'm doing is not to be told, certainly over a live stream or anywhere on the internet.
Of
So no
course,
one
of
knows what
course.
I'm doing in
Oh
Buffalo.
yeah,
Well,
no,
it never hurts. It
it's a
never hurts.
secret.
But what is nice, and I bring up that point, is on this particular show, I have been gifted with a first class seat. So I selected like a whole. I've got like some crazy
Nice.
meal. I mean, yeah, So we'll see how that rolls. But I am. I'm actually tracking down when I land in Buffalo. I'm tracking down a guy who's South Asian, Indian, and he's doing Texas style barbecue. Like I connected with the chef I know from Buffalo who we featured on Cheap Eats, and he's like, I know that dude. And he actually stopped serving by 5. But as soon as I land, I'm gonna drop my bag off and go try. Like he basically is doing like curries, and
Okay.
but using those tastes, the seasonings in barbecue. So I'm gonna check this dude out. So
Amazing.
I'm not too worried about eating it. Aunt Annie's. I thought it was Auntie Anne's. Auntie Anne's? Is that like a generic
Okay.
Auntie? I don't know.
I, I guess
I don't
that's
know.
the yeah. That's the yeah.
Well, before you go, I got a couple more points about bourbon. Um, we only got 3 episodes left. Next week, Ali is going to throw down on some food that he thinks goes with bourbon or registers with bourbon. Then we're going to do another cocktail and we're going to talk about styles. So, from styles, we're going to talk about the barrels, we're going to talk about the ingredients inside that mash bill and what they bring to the table. And then episode 8, I believe it's November 17th, is Ali and Ryan throwing down on a blind tasting of bourbon of 4 bourbons that I've chosen. They have no idea what they are.
Are
So,
these going to be different alcohol content levels?
yeah, I'll have, but it's really, I'm working around, well, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. Fair
Yeah, I'm
enough.
not going to tell you.
No, that's good. That's
It's
good.
just 4 bourbons. They're all different. I just want to see what you guys like in style.
So yeah, so Steve is going to be sending me and Ali in the mail 4 different bourbons, and on episode 8, we're going to be blind tasting them and saying what we prefer, and then
Yes.
we're going to have a reveal of what actually is. And yeah, so that's what we're going for in episode 8, 3 episodes from now.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I'm looking
This
forward
is
to it.
great, guys. I hope you have a newfound appreciation for whiskey sour. Obviously, it's not just a straight whiskey sour with the apple juice or with the ginger and the lemon simple syrup, but it's a really good drink. It's refreshing, and you get so many components of flavor from the different ingredients.
I think
I love this drink.
what's really cool about this one and the last one is these are like whiskey cocktails that you can have. I don't know. I mean, like you said, if you're watching football, and
Yep.
also it is nice. It's seasonal. Apples scream fall. Football screams fall, and you could have a couple. You know what I mean? Like you can't really just. I was watching the World Series last night, and like you can only have so many like whiskeys on a big ice cube, especially when you go extra innings. Forget it. You're
Right.
done. I got to stop. Exactly. But this is an opportunity to like catch like a couple hours of sports. You can like have a few of these drinks, and I just like the idea of
Yep.
rethinking a cocktail that you eventually dismiss and go, that's like rookie stuff because that's
Right,
not
it's old
right.
school.
Um, yeah. And it's so funny because Steve, you thought of '70s. I think of it as college. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, this is sweet. And I swear to God, it reminds me of those flavored Jack Daniel drinks from back in the day. Because it's something you could actually buy. Everyone knows what Jack Daniels is. Whiskey
Right.
seems to be cool. Chug a lug. Gonna knock down that sixer and hopefully find a party. I mean, that's where I'm coming from my previous whiskey sour. I was looking for a party. Like, oh, bro, follow that
Yeah.
car. That Jeep. I know that Jeep. That's Ricky, dude. He knows where that party is. So this is like grown man stuff. I'm excited, and yeah, I mean, like I got a lot of football in my future this fall. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna watch some stuff, catch some college games. Oh, Everyone went away for a second. All right, everyone's back.
Steve's B cam went away. Hey, Steve,
Yeah.
what would you pair with this? I mean, we know obviously a bowl of nuts is one answer.
Deadly.
What would
Spot on.
you
Spot.
what would
So
you pair with this?
chili, really good
Chili.
chili.
Ooh,
And I even
just
talked to a Texan on Wednesday, and she said, I put beans in my chili, and I put three different kinds of beans in my chili.
ooh,
So
interesting.
she was from down in Houston or Corpus Christi.
It's a
So,
big debate. But
um,
Steve, you also found some Cincinnati chili this week that
yes,
you sent us on the text message.
yeah, that's my hometown, and Cincinnati chili is a very specific thing. Everybody has probably heard of Skyline chili. It has some cinnamon and some sweetness, some chocolate inside it. You serve it over spaghetti. You can have a chili spaghetti. You can have a three-way, a four-way, or a five-way. Onions, beans, cheese. Then my favorite are chili cheese conies. It's
Ooh.
mustard, cheese, hot dog, chili, and a ton of cheese. So three of those, one chili spaghetti, and I'm happy.
Wow.
I
Oh,
will say this: that kind of chili is excellent as a topper for a hot dog because it's thin, it's not overwhelming. I will
yes.
tell you though, I'm always baffled when people are like, "Oh, it's not chili if it has beans in it." I think beans are delicious. However, I do think you can get carried away. I think beans can be filler, and I almost think the Texan way would be beans on the side and then you add it to your bowl. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you want to, because when you scare me when you say triple beans, I'm not gonna lie. And I saw some other guy's recipe where he did a Texas chili with 7 different kinds of beans. Man, maybe just some pintos on the side as a garni. It's a garni. It's like that splash
Mhm.
of Mountain Dew Code Red that you like to put over all your cocktails, Steve, like martinis, the great martini as a splash of Code Red. But yeah, I don't know. I'm starting. Maybe the Texas thing is just starting to get in there. Also, have you guys ever had chili con carne? So it's not ground beef; it's
Yeah,
actual braised
yeah.
cubes of beef.
Yes.
I That is something I want to try and get into. I It's kind of crazy to say I've never had it, but I'm probably going to make it first because I have a mean chili rub. And I'll say this: if we're talking chili, you really want to have next game the next level chili up that chili game. Don't buy premixed chili powder. I don't care, like
Oh God,
if it's a
no.
reputable brand. Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. Oh God, no. Oh God, no.
So the way I make my chili, I use different meats. I'll use pork sausage. I'll use some cubed up beef, ground beef, and then whole tomatoes that you cut up. A couple different kinds of beans. I like dark kidney beans and black
Okay.
beans. And then it's not a thick chili, so I mean you just cook it for a long time. In my head, I think of chili as like a hodgepodge of ingredients that's cooked for a long time with spice. So I don't really get geeky on what I can and cannot put in my chili. But that's what I think about with football and sitting around drinking bourbon cocktails is chili.
I have these friends that do a chili cook-off every year down in Orange County, and the diversity of the chilies
Yeah.
is there'll be 10 different chilies, and some of them are very watery, some of them are very beany, some of them are almost like refried beans, thick.
Yeah.
So there's quite a spread of what's possible, and that's why it's such a funny conversation, right? We fight about whether you put beans in it, but it's a very expressive dish, I guess we could say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very individualistic. Yeah, I love it. So that's the first thing I think of. Sitting around, friends, football, chili,
Chili.
whiskey.
I'm kind of curious because when I mean, I don't know if you're chili with the spices and stuff, because when you do go into that Cincinnati style, it really is tied to like the Greeks that were in Ohio, right, and running
Yep.
diners back in the early 20th century.
Mm.
Actually, it's the DNA of it is actually close to a Greek version of bolognese. So when you're adding stuff like cinnamon, that's very counter
Interesting.
to a Texas chili. So when you say that this drink that you made, your whiskey sour with that apple, with that ginger, do you think it pairs better with a Cincinnati style chili or a Texas style chili? Or
So probably just a regular chili. I don't ever really make Texas style. I'll be honest, Cincinnati chili, I usually am eating at a diner, either Camp Washington or Dixie Chili or Skyline. I'm not kicking back, having a whole bunch of cocktails. I'm getting off the plane and I'm going to have Cincinnati chili pretty much right away, just because that's what you grew up with. This, I think of the chili that I make at home. So different kinds of meats, a couple different kinds of beans, not a lot of beans. We're only talking about a can of each. Whole tomatoes, tomato sauce, and then you cook in your kind of homemade chili recipe. It has a good amount of spice, and then I always have a giant thing of hot sauce with all of it. And that style with this is perfect.
Very nice.
Ali, come back.
We have a speaker request.
We do.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have a speaker request, so bring it on.
Bring it on.
Should we check it out?
Yeah.
Let's check it out. All right, Chris. We're taking you on here. Chris is joining the show.
I think Chris has joined the show before.
Oh, did
Chris? Hey, thank you so much.
Hi, Chris.
How are you, Chris?
Yeah, I've been here before. Thanks so much. Real quick question. Steve, you mentioned Cincinnati chili, and in the early 70s, I was able to go there quite a bit, and I preferred Skyline over Gold Star. Did you have a preference over it?
Oh, yes. Never Gold Star. Skyline. There's a lot of chili companies in Cincinnati. You got Blue Ash, Camp Washington. I won't even be able to remember all of them. Dixie over on the Kentucky side of the river of Cincinnati. But if I'm choosing between Skyline and Gold Star, I don't like Gold Star at all. Skyline.
Are these restaurants? Are these food chains? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And have you?
Like Camp Washington. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Have you explained to them the ordering process, the 3 ways, the 4 ways, the 2 ways, etc.?
Yes, chili. And I told them my preference. I get a chili spaghetti and 3 chili cheese conies.
Now, when I lived in Florida for a while, I found out that on Federal Highway, I think in Fort Lauderdale, a Skyline owner opened a shop down there near Miami. So that might be interesting. Final comment. Back in the 70s, as I mentioned, in Cincinnati, I noticed that people in Cincinnati have a habit that other people in the country, when they don't hear you, they go, huh, or what? But in Cincinnati, they go, please.
Yeah, I say please a lot. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. But
That's great.
Yeah.
Regional. Yeah, I was trying to show you guys. I held this up here, but Steve sent us a picture of his menu. I don't know if you can translate, but it has the 3-way, 4-way sort of thing. So yeah, I believe we did an episode of this that's on YouTube where we talk a little bit about this. I don't know exactly which one, but
okay. Yeah. So chili spaghetti is the basic. You just spaghetti and you pour over the chili. Then you add cheese, it's a 3-way. You add onions, it's a 4-way. You add beans, it's a 5-way. Yeah.
Killer. Thank you, Chris.
I'm a 4-way guy.
Thank you, Chris, for jumping on with that. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
And thank you so much. And like they used to say back in the days of the Big Red Machine, this one belongs to the Reds.
Yes.
That was awesome.
By the way, Chris is obviously a voiceover actor because listen to those deep tones.
So. I know that was awesome,
incredible.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, unless there's anything else, or Ollie, unless there's anything else, let's probably wrap this episode up.
Yeah, we're good.
I'm so glad Ollie made it today, and we're so appreciative that Fireside has been showing us love and hosting us on their platform and featuring us in their newsletter. That's been incredible. and we're just amped. It's fun building this. Again, we're on probably our 50th or 51st episode by this point, and it's fun to expand and grow with you guys, and we're loving what's going on our end, and we hope you guys watching are enjoying what we're doing as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Whiskey sours.
I know. Cheers to that. I hope you've got like a chili 4-way in your future. I guess, you only go out for that. You know what's really weird? When you first started doing the drink, I was like, oh, I smell apples, like cinnamon. I was smelling cinnamon. Now we've been talking about Cincinnati chili. I swear to God, I smell hot dogs. I swear to God, I smell hot dogs right now. I highly recommend you guys. Awesome. Just one day, like maybe try this in a shopping mall, at the food court, be inundated by smells. It's really fun. Yeah, you should be in like near several professional kitchens, because the hot dog's going away.
You're probably smelling a hot dog wrapped in pretzel.
Yes,
that scares me. It scares me.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome, guys.
Peace out, guys.
See you next week.
Safe travels.
Bye.
See you guys soon. Oh, wow. End the show.